It's time for
DodgerHeads.
Yo, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the DodgerBlue.com YouTube channel and podcast presented by Prize Picks. My name is Vince Samperio, and this is DodgerHeads Unplugged. On today's show, we're going to talk about the weekend series win over the Angels, more specifically, Roki Sasaki's big start. Talk about how the Dodgers should handle Will Smith and his neck issue. And then we'll touch on the latest from the Tarik Skubal situation. If this is your first time seeing me, I'm Vince Samperio, and I've been covering the Dodgers in a variety of ways since 2014. I've been credential media, been a podcaster, been a social media professional, and the whole time I've been a fan. Today's random Dodger of the day is Jeff Weaver. Weaver actually pitched parts of 4 seasons with the Dodgers, and the reason I thought about him was because Long Beach has a new Pioneer League team called the Coast, Long Beach Coast, and Jared Weaver's the bullpen at Blair Field in Long Beach is named after Jared Weaver, who is Jeff Weaver's brother. So that's why Jeff Weaver is today's random Dodger of the day. And I want to start off by apologizing. I wasn't here on Friday. I was out of town and I took my stuff, and the internet at the hotel just wasn't great. The hotspot, the network for the hotspot just wasn't great. I didn't want to be laggy, and we just weren't able to get it done this time. But I'm back, and I'll be here all week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. So let's talk about Dodgers, because the Dodgers won the series this weekend. They beat the Angels 2 out of 3. Friday was a dramatic walk-off 1-0 win. Freddie Freeman delivering walk-offs at Dodger Stadium. We'll always hit. It'll never be out of style. Roki Sasaki dominated that. We'll get into his start a little bit. Saturday, complete opposite. Dodgers scored 9 in the first inning and then didn't score the rest of the game, but cruised to victory. Yamamoto got some run support and showed what happens when he gets run support. He just delivered another gem of an outing. And then Sunday, Emmett Sheehan ran into some trouble in the second inning. Not all his fault, but mostly, him not being able to put guys away. And then the Dodgers turned to the bullpen, and the bullpen wasn't able to come through. The offense did get it close at one point, but the offense or the bullpen wasn't able to keep it going. So, good morning to the chat, and let's talk about Will Smith, because Will Smith did not play yesterday when we believed that he might, based on Dave Roberts' comments from the night before. On Saturday, Will Smith was scratched from the Dodgers lineup late. Dave Roberts said Will has a stiff neck. He was going to play in 2 of 3 regardless, so it's nice we can tap Dalton on the shoulder and give him the nod. This was with the expectation that Will Smith would be back in there on Sunday. When asked what the neck issue or how Will Smith got it, Roberts said, quote, "I think a bad night of sleep or a bad pillow." And then on Sunday, when he was not in the lineup again, Dave Roberts said, quote, "It's not serious, but it's something that is preventing him from playing. As I sat here and felt confident he was going to be in there today, I got a little bit better, but not enough to play. We've got the off day tomorrow, and then there's travel. So Tuesday is TBD, but it's more of a day-to-day thing." They asked if Will Smith needed any testing for neck stiffness. He did get scans checked out. All was great. All was good. And for me, I'm always going to err on the side of just put him on the IL and get him back in, a week and a half, if that's what it needs to be. Now, the one reason I can't just say, oh, put him on the IL, put him on the IL, put him on the IL now. The Dodgers don't have another catcher on the 40-man roster at the moment. There is an easy way to make room on the 40-man roster at the moment, because Kike Hernandez is still listed on the 10-day IL. He could get moved to the 60-day IL because he's not going to be back before 60 days. And then you can call up, whatever catcher you want. And I still think, if you have somebody down there that you're not necessarily worried about losing, because the Dodgers will need another 40-man spot when Evan Phillips is due back soon. But again, that's looking ahead. There are some pitchers on the 40-man roster that realistically, you wouldn't miss if the Dodgers had to DFA them or had to move them around in order to get them going. But I think for me right now, Will Smith's not hitting. Will Smith, is still, there's some underlying numbers, and Robert's kind of mentioned that there's some underlying numbers that show that, Smith could get back to hitting very easily, or things could start turning around for him. But for me, he's your catcher that played a lot last year, caught all those innings in the postseason, has been the guy in the postseason the last few years. Like, has a lot of wear and tear on his body realistically. Dalton Rushing, 4 hit on Sunday, even though he finally homered, hadn't homered since the beginning of the season, but he got that homer in. He's a more than capable guy to fill in for a week, 2 weeks. Let Will Smith get fully healthy. Let Will Smith, take his mind off of things for a little bit, and call someone up, move some pieces around to get somebody on the 40-man, and get Will Smith some rest. I'm still in the camp of that. I still believe in that. There's no reason to have a day-to-day thing when the IL is only 10 days. We're already 2 days down. He can be back in a week and a half or whatever it is now, and he can get some rest and relax and not worry about, my neck. Because with Will Smith, feels like every year now, but he's had hot starts to the season and then kind of cools off, and then we don't know much. And then we hear after the season, like, oh, he was dealing with this, or oh, he was dealing with that, or he had a lingering injury and nobody knew about it, or we didn't tell people about it, whatever, blah 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 blah. There's no reason to do that. Dalton Rushing is more than capable. Like I said, the roster is very easy to manipulate to get somebody on there, and you can get Smith that rest. And looking at, in OKC, you have Eliezer Alfonso and you have Chucky Robinson as the catchers. None of those guys are prospects. None of those guys, need playing time necessarily. You can call any one of them up, and if it came to be that you would have to DFA them when someone else comes back, or when someone is healthy, then that's just what happens. Like, realistically, they clear waivers and they can go back to OKC. So, and especially a cross-country flight. Like, he already has neck stiffness. Now he's going on a cross-country flight to Pittsburgh. I just don't see the reason for it, especially at catcher. If it was any other position, okay, you can go day-to-day because the Dodgers have more than enough flexibility and guys that can play multiple positions to make it work. At catcher, if Dalton Rushing gets hurt, then you're going to send a compromised Will Smith out there. And then, he could compromise himself even more. And then what? For what reason? So for me, I'm all for get Will Smith on the IL and let's move on. So that's my thoughts. We'll see what happens. There's a chance Will Smith wasn't on the plane to Pittsburgh. There's a chance that somebody else from OKC is on the way to Pittsburgh, and exactly what I'm talking about is going to happen. Or Will Smith, I guess, could have woke up and felt completely fine, and everything's good. So we'll see. But let's talk about Roki Sasaki next, because he threw a gem on Friday. The second time he shut down the Angels and done very well against the Angels. But again, you can only pitch against who's on your schedule. And Roki Sasaki has gotten beat by maybe not a team worse than the Angels, but by offenses maybe not as strong or comparable to the Angels. And I think what's interesting for me with Roki, kind of looking at the numbers, is the way he got it done. Now, his velocity was up a little bit on the fastball. He was sitting or averaging 98.3. He's been averaging 97.2. He touched 98.6 in that seventh inning. He started off the game touching almost 99, 98.9. So he had the velocity there. But the pitch usage was the biggest difference that we saw. He was heavy splitter, 21%. He's thrown 21% of the time he throws a splitter so far this season. In this game, 37% of the time he threw the splitter. Dropped the fastball usage by 6%. and dropped the forkball usage a little bit, upped the slider usage just a little bit. He got out of 21 swings on the splitter, he had 10 swing and misses. 48% whiff on the splitter, 55% whiff on the slider, 6 out of 11. And the other part of it is how he used it each time through the lineup. First time through the lineup, he was heavy fastball, 42% of the time. Then second time through the lineup, the splitter went up to 39%, the fastball dropped to 32%. And then the third time through lineup, he was 45% splitter and just 14% slider and 36% fastball. So he was mixing it up very, very well. He was showing why, teams wanted him when he was coming over from Japan, and he's showing why the Dodgers continue to preach and have patience with him. And it's a good step in his development to be a guy. Like, when you're a good starting pitcher, when you're a really good starting pitcher, some days you're gonna have your best pitch. For Roki, that'd be the splitter. This was one of those days. The splitter was on, getting a lot of swings and misses. He was able to play, prioritize it and get it going. But, the slider has also developed pretty well. The slider has become a good pitch for him to the point where, he's throwing it a lot more than he had in the past. And he's able to get swing and miss on it. And then the fastball just kind of sits back. And when the fastball's sitting 99, but you don't know what's coming. Is it splitter? Is it slider? Is it fastball? Then it's a lot easier to, even if your fastball is flat, even if your fastball is straight, you got guys thinking a lot more on the box and you're able to utilize it. And if you can place it. And he was doing very well. Limited the walks. He just had the 2 walks and 2 walks, right? Yeah, just the 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, just 2 hits, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, no runs, 7 innings. Reed Detmers on the other side for the Angels shut down the Dodger offense. He went 6 innings, struck out 6. So outdueled the Reed Detmers on that, and then Freddie Freeman walks it off. But for Roki, he's making it so that when the Dodgers do ever get one of their starters back or 2 of their starters back, Glasnow transferred to the 60-day IL. So, I don't think that really changes anything on his timeline now that we know it. But it also, they were able to add Nick Frasso to the 40-man and, can add him to the active roster whenever they need him, which could happen with Jonathan Hernandez pitching some extended innings on Sunday. But, yeah, when Glasnow and or Snell come back, Roki's not the first one you think of when you think of who needs to move out of the rotation. And, obviously this is coming off a very, very bad start. But, Emmett Sheehan's already the guy that is up and down. At this point, he's the most inconsistent of all the starting pitchers the Dodgers have. And if it came down to it and they needed somebody to come out of the starting rotation, well, I guess Lauer. Lauer would probably be first and then Emmett Sheehan. But Roki Sasaki is not the first 2 names you think of. So it's good on him. It's good on, the Dodgers for the development. And it's good on Roki for kind of realizing, a lot of what we saw and what we heard from both sides of the story with Roki was Roki being hesitant to maybe adjust because he's probably had so much success that he felt like, why do I need to make changes? But also when he started meeting with teams, what was one of the things that they were asking? They were asking oh, if you can help me figure out how to get my velocity back. Because the velocity had dropped and they weren't sure if it was directly related to injury or not. Probably a little bit of mechanics. Whatever it is, they found this energy. It's starting to work now. It's starting to come together. Roki's looked really good his last few times out. And again, starting to look like a guy that is going to remain in the Dodgers rotation for the future and time being. He's almost got his ERA under 4, which is, not that easy to do with how high it was. And, you can only do so many innings each time out. But you look at Roki and, he got the length in this game, but his last 3 starts out against a division-leading Milwaukee Brewers team, 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, against a Phillies team that was caught coming into that weekend. 5 1/3, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and obviously an Angels team that is not that great, but 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. And that's what you do. When you face not great teams, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, that's perfect. When you face playoff teams or potential playoff teams, 5, 6 innings, less than 2 runs, and that's all the Dodgers can really ask for. And that's what he's delivering now, and he's really becoming an asset to the Dodgers in the starting rotation. And the other part of it, like when they get deeper into it, like let's just say they get to October and they're entering October and Yamamoto's healthy, Otani's healthy, Glasnow's healthy, Snell's healthy. Maybe they trade for somebody. We'll talk maybe, potentially about one of those names in a little bit. Roki pitched in the bullpen last year, so he knows what to do. He knows how to do it. He knows how to prepare. He's pitching the postseason, or not just out of the bullpen in general, but out of the bullpen in the postseason. So if he has this splitter and this slider, along with the fastball, they can continue to kind of find that shape on the fastball. Yeah, that's an asset. And because I've mentioned this before, for the Dodgers to win another World Series, it's not going to come down to one specific set of like starters or relievers. It's the pitching staff as a whole. Can you go 1 through 13 on your pitching staff, or 14 if with counting Otani, and not necessarily really be worried, or at least 1 through 13? Maybe there's one guy that is hit or miss. And Roki adds to that. Roki being a solid arm adds to that. It gives you an extra arm that you can count on. And I'm excited to see it for him. I'm excited to see it as a Dodger fan. And I'm excited to see it moving forward. So shout out to Roki. And shout out to Freddie for ending that game on Friday against old Dodger pal Kirby Yates. So shout out to Kirby Yates. Let's talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the app where you can build out lineups from different sports, different players, different categories. All you got to do is pick more or less on those categories, and you build out a lineup between 2 and 6 players. There's demons, which means that it's harder to happen, but a higher payout. There's goblins, which means it's lower, more likely to happen, but less of a payout. Less of a multiplier. Let's check out. Dodgers are off today, so we're building out a lineup for this NBA Finals game. I think, even though it's in New York, I think the Spurs are going to win this game. I think, there's no way the Knicks are going to go up 3-0 in this series. For that to happen, I think this is going to happen. I think Wemby's going to go off 27 points. He got 29 last game, 26 in game 1. So I think he's going to score more than that, 27 more. Stephon Castle, it's a goblin, only 11.5, but, you don't know who's going to step up for the Spurs beyond Wemby, so I'll take him 11.5 more. OG Anunoby, less on 15.5 points, and Karl-Anthony Towns, less on 17.5 points. If the Spurs are going to win, this is what kind of needs to happen. They need to shut down at least 2 of the 3-4 guys. Like, they need to shut down Cat and Anunoby. Maybe Brunson and Mikal Bridges go off, or the other way around. But this is what I'm doing. It's a power play. If you do it, 7.75. So even if you put $1, that's $7.75 on the other side of it. So remember, go check out the Prize Picks app, download it now, and new users can play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups. All you got to do is use the code HMA. That's code HMA with the Prize Picks app. Remember, Prize Picks is available for you in multiple states, including California and Florida. So go check it out. And let's talk Dodgers more. Let's talk about the latest on, actually not Dodgers specifically. Let's talk about the latest on Tarik Skubal, because we got a couple updates over the weekend. One, Bob Nightingale reported on Sunday that the Tigers are telling other teams that Skubal is, quote, off limits for now. For now, doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. Obviously, they're not going to trade him in June unless they're blown away by a deal. So, yeah, he's off limits for now. Tarik Skubal made his first rehab start coming off the nanoscope, cleaning out of the loose bodies in the elbow. He threw 5 shutout innings, struck out 6. So looked good, looked healthy. And the other thing I believe Nightingale had reported is that teams are kind of waiting to see, they're not just going to start offering stuff for Tarik Skubal. They got to wait. They want to see at least 3 starts. I don't know if that means 3 starts in the majors or 3 starts in general. If it's in general, we've seen 1 start. We've seen 1 rehab start. If it's in the majors, I don't know what the plan is. I would imagine the Tigers are, when your season's already kind of down the drain, not fully because the AL is bad and the extra wild card, everybody's still kind of in it, but the Tigers are pretty bad. And, for them, they want to turn this around fast. Like if they want to, they need to know if they have a chance to do this, they need to turn things around, and bringing Tarik Skubal back as fast as possible would benefit them. Then maybe if he was still here beyond this year, like if they still had another year on him, you probably wouldn't rush him back because, okay, even if this year's the last year, we have 1 more year with him. There is no that. This is 1 more year, 1 more season, this season with him. You want to try to maximize that, whether that's helping him, using him to help turn your season around and get back into the postseason. And then the postseason, you never know what happens. Or him being healthy, you showcasing him, and the trade, the trades start coming in, the trade offers start coming in, and you get some for Skubal when you wouldn't have got anything except maybe a comp pick. So you look at the American League right now as it stands, the Tigers, even at 27-39, they're only 5.5 games out of that 3rd wild card. You look at the teams ahead of them, and you can see why they think they might still have a chance. Like the Boston Red Sox are ahead of them, but they're not very good. The Houston Astros are ahead of them. They can get good if, the offense starts carrying things and they get Hunter Brown back. So that's one team. Like the Minnesota Twins, like they're 30-37. They're not good. And I don't think they're going to continue that way. Or I think they're going to continue that way. Baltimore Orioles, very up and down. The A's, the A's could stay there. Their offense, they don't have the pitching, but Gage Jump is pitched pretty well for them. Maybe they have another guy down in the minors. Look at the Blue Jays. They're probably the one team that can turn things around and get hot and push themselves into a wild card spot. And then you got the Rangers and White Sox holding down the last 2 wild card spots. The White Sox have been a great story so far this season. Murakami's out a couple months. We'll see if that hurts them, if they start falling off from there. The Rangers are just a weird team, so you don't know what to expect from them. So when you look at all that, if you're the Tigers, you're saying, yeah, we have a shot. You bring Skubal back, we have a chance every 5th game to win that one. All you need is to win 2 more out of the other 4, and now you're winning at 600 clip. If you're winning at a 600 clip the rest of the way, it probably gets you back over 500. It probably gets you into a playoff spot. And then when you're in the playoffs, like, you have Skubal to throw, like at least 2 games in every series, in a 7-game series, potentially 3 games in a series, or 2 games in relief. Like, there's a lot of possibilities. Framber Valdez, even though he's had some struggles so far this season, like, that's still a guy that's done it in the postseason before. If they get Casey Mize back, and he continues to throw like he was, and then they have Melton, I think. Troy Melton, I believe. He's another guy that can be a good starter for them. The offense can turn things around. Kevin McGonigal's been a good guy for them. Riley Green's been a good guy for them. They need some of these other guys to kind of step it up. So, like, you can see the path for the Tigers. You can see why they're not, start taking offers on Skubal, because Skubal, you could probably get a little bit more if you traded Skubal now. That's a whole extra month. That's 3 to 4 starts. But he's not fully healthy. I don't know if his next start's going to be in the majors or minors. So that's what it is when it comes to Skubal. I'll be interested to see, like I said, the Dodgers are going to continue to be named. The Dodgers are continue to be in the mix. with Skubal. I'm sure to see what other names start emerging as we kind of see what teams start to fall back. Like the Angels are probably out of it, but realistically, what do they really have to offer? Like if some, I don't think they're gonna trade Mike Trout or unless he asks for it. Jose Soriano, the shine's kind of worn off him a little bit. And yeah, I don't know what else they have that's not part of their future. But as these other teams start falling off, there'll be more names emerging as we see what the Dodgers kind of need or what how Glasnow and Snell are recovering, how Edwin Diaz is recovering, how some of these bats figure it out or don't figure it out. We'll kind of see what the Dodgers' needs are and moving forward, and we'll probably have a lot more trade rumors and trade talks for sure. If not by next week, then in the next couple weeks for the Dodgers. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is something I would have talked about on Friday, but unfortunately wasn't able to. And it's really kind of passed because Max Muncy has been playing. But man, I've talked about the anti-Dodger hate already, like the anti-Dodger sentiment, and it's all on social media, mostly X. It might be on other social medias. I don't know. It might be happening in real life, not in my real life. But oh my, the people that were saying that Muncy was a dirty player and that he ran into Eldemaro Vargas on purpose and all this other stuff. For what reason? Just if anyone can think of a reason that Max Muncy would want to do that, that makes sense. I'd listen to it, but it's probably not going to happen. Like, what benefit does Muncy get out of it running full speed into someone? He's not why would he risk taking himself out to take out Eldemaro Vargas, especially considering the fact that Eldemaro Vargas has already started to, get back to who he was as a player. He had a hot start, he had that hot few weeks, and it looked like, man, where did this guy come from? He's been a career journeyman, and he's kind of, gone back to that. And then, just when Muncy explains why he did what he did, when Torey Lovullo, this is the part that's funny, is that Torey Lovullo said, hey, Vargas, he kind of didn't fully blame Vargas, but kind of said a more experienced first baseman probably wouldn't have done what he did. He would have handled it, maybe gone to the bag or whatever. And then I see D-bags fans online oh, man, we shouldn't have hired this Dodger lover or something like that. And it's just like, bro, this is your manager saying it, that it wasn't on purpose. Lovullo and the Dodgers have got into it before. They've had, I don't know if they have specific issues where he's called the Dodgers out, but the Dodgers and D-backs have had a little bit of contentiousness over the years when he's been the manager. And it was just funny to me to kind of see everything. It's, like I said, I was out of town, so I wasn't fully on my phone. I did see the play after the fact. I did see some of the backlash or whatever you want to call it after the fact, but it was just hilarious to me because it makes no sense. If it made sense, if this was a postseason, I get if it was last year's World Series and Muncy did that, it would have been a little bit different with Vladdy versus Muncy compared to Vargas versus Muncy. But if Muncy had said, you know what, in his head, I'm going to take out Vladdy. I'm going to try to take out Vladdy. That's going to help us win. Vladdy's more important to the Blue Jays than I am to the Dodgers. Then that would, I guess, if you really wanted to push limits of your thinking, that would be the case. But for me, it just didn't make sense. I'm glad Muncy's okay. I think I actually don't know about Vargas. I didn't follow up, but I think people started to realize there was, it was just one of those plays that happens sometimes that you can't really prevent, or you could have prevented it, but it wasn't preventable after the fact. So, all right, Dodgers are off today. They're heading to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's an interesting team this year. We'll talk a little bit more about it on tomorrow's episode. But they've had a really good offense. We know they have some good pitchers. And we'll get into the series preview on tomorrow's episode, 9 a.m. That's going to do it for today's episode of DodgerHeads Unplugged, part of the DodgerBlue.com YouTube channel and podcast. Make sure to check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest on the Dodgers, latest articles, news, rumors, updates. You can also find all that on social media at DodgerBlue1958. Get all the latest, updates. You can watch more videos here on YouTube. You can find stuff on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Remember, I'm here for you every weekday morning at 9 a.m. You can find me at VinceSince91 on all social platforms. And see you again tomorrow.